Super El Nino is emerging as one of the most powerful climate threats in the world. Something the world has not seen in recent decades. Across continents, its early signals are already being felt. Oceans are warming beyond normal limits, weather systems are becoming unstable, and countries are witnessing a sharp rise in extreme events from scorching heat waves to sudden floods and prolonged droughts. Well, the World Meteorological Organization has warned that the El Nino conditions are expected to strengthen from 2026. In fact, this is also already knocking at India's door. At the 11th Niti Aayog Governing Council meeting, Prime Minister Modi flagged the emerging El Nino risk and urged states to prioritize water conservation and coordinated climate preparedness. The warning comes at a crucial time as India prepares for a potentially vulnerable monsoon season. To take us through all of this, the ABCDs of this, and why should this worry you, I have got Dr. Roxy Matthew Call with me, who is a climate scientist from the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. Thank you very much. Good evening. Pleasure to see you after a while, Mr. Roxy. So
good evening,
let's just start with the basics. We've had this in the news cycle for a while now. Everybody across the world is talking about it. India is talking about it. PM Modi has spoken about it. But what is this Super El Nino and why is it so worrisome?
Right. So El Nino is a phenomenon that occurs or starts off from the Pacific. Every 5 to 6 years, it's not periodic, but still around in 5 to 6 years, you see warm water anomalies forming over the Pacific. Now, the Pacific is 1/3 of the globe's surface, right? And it has global implications as well. So any change in the climate conditions or temperatures over the Pacific has huge implications on weather conditions across the globe. Suddenly, global temperatures shoot up, and in fact, we might be seeing, if the El Nino develops to be a quite strong El Nino this year, it could the 2026, 2027 could be the hottest years ever on record that we have seen, humans have seen. So that's the kind of implication that this El Nino has, because it's riding on a global warming signal. And that shoots up the temperatures across the globe. And it has also implications on the monsoon, weather systems across the globe. Even the FIFA World Cup, they are expecting more hotter, humid temperatures and even thunderstorms during the matches.
Right. Mr. Roxy, now, how much of this is going to affect India? And we've had the El Nino effect in the past as well. How different is it going to be for India?
If you look at the historical records, we see that from the data that I have been using based on the India Meteorological Department for the last 150 years, we have 150 years or more of monsoon data. And what it shows is that more than 50% of the El Nino years we have seen drought over India, which means statistically less than 10% or 10% lesser rainfall than normal, and about 80% of those years have been below normal as well. So this is because El Nino in the Pacific weakens the monsoon winds that brings in all that rain and moisture towards the Indian subcontinent. So as a result, we get lesser rains than usual. And already we see a weak monsoon developing over India. Over the last 12 days, the monsoon has been around 26% deficit so far. And if it continues, it could have a major impact on our monsoon aggregate for the year, impact on the agriculture, impact on the water security, and so on. And it also doesn't mean, so even if the total amount of rainfall could be lower than usual, doesn't mean extreme rains do not happen. Monsoon becomes erratic during such a year. So you would still expect extreme rains that could cause landslides and flash floods during the year. So we need to be prepared for both dry deficit spells along with heavy rains as well. And this is something which is amplified because of global warming. Uh, yeah, so the El
I
Nino
wanted
is
to get to this.
riding
I
on a
wanted to
global
get to
warming.
this.
Yeah,
Much of the world is still in denial about climate change and global warming. You have Donald Trump, who has gone on to say, "What is this nonsense?" He said it before the whole world. Um, in not in as much as words, but just the very same messaging. But the reality of it is all around us. Now, many people talk about how El Nino being a natural phenomena. How then is it very closely associated with climate change? I mean, climate change or no climate change, El Nino would have happened. How do you associate it with climate change?
yeah. Why El Nino is a natural phenomena, part of oscillation. So you have El Nino, then warm neutral conditions in the Pacific, then La Nina as well. Like last year, it was a La Nina, but still global temperatures were high. 2025 was one of the warmest years in record because the global temperatures are riding on that warming signal. And if you ask me why we need to be considered about we need to be concerned about El Nino during a global, I mean, with respect to global warming, the fact is that the oceans absorb more than 93% of the heat from global warming. And during an El Nino, all that heat, at least a part of that heat comes out. And that is what, kind of shoots off the global temperatures as well. So,
Roxy, do you want to
uh,
explain? Can you see that image on the screen right now?
yeah,
Do you want to
I see
explain
that. I
this
see
to
that.
us?
Yeah. So this is usually we have the trade winds. So what you see is the Central East Pacific, the warm water anomalies in the East Pacific, and usually the trade winds blow from that East Pacific where the Americas are to the west. And once in a while, the trade winds weaken, and all that warm water which was collected in the west pushes back. Right. And this also kind of feedbacks to the ocean where, so the East Pacific is where what we call the upwelling happens, where because of the trade winds, the cool water from the subsurface comes to the surface.
Right.
And when this water comes back to the east, that upwelling doesn't happen. And that kind of amplifies this warm signal.
So when you look
And
at
yeah,
1877, 2026, 2027, it just
yeah,
clearly shows the extent of what's really
yeah,
happening, about
yeah.
how it's worse than before.
Yeah, so that is also true. So the El Ninos now that we see are much stronger than the El Ninos that we have seen earlier. So earlier, if these anomalies were like 1 degree Celsius on an average, like 50 years ago, now the El Nino anomalies, sea surface temperature anomalies over that region are like 2 degrees Celsius above normal. So this is what we are expecting this year as well, a quite strong El Nino, which could potentially surpass the previous El Ninos. And if that happens, the impact on the monsoon, global temperatures will be much higher than usual.
You know, Prime Minister has gone ahead and already said that you need to be very careful about this,
Yeah,
ensure that there's water conservation. How much of that is something that India has really been working on? Because at the end of the day, we have been having record years of weak monsoons as well.
right.
Year on year on year. We've had record droughts year on year. There have been severe climate changes year on year. If you have a normal monsoon, it would be a relief. In fact, there have been times when you've had normal spells of monsoons at the end of it when you look at the larger average, but there have been dry
Exactly.
spells in between. But has
Yeah.
India really moved to address this?
That's a good observation, Sneha. I think you know very much about the monsoon and the El Nino as well. I'm glad to see, and there is more awareness among people about El Nino. And this is what I also want to emphasize because we have been building that awareness of global warming, how the monsoons are changing, how we are having more dry spells in the recent years. So, one message I would like to push, I keep on pushing, is that we need to be perpetually prepared for these kind of extreme conditions where
Which
the
we
monsoon is
aren't.
declining over a long time. We need policies for that. At the same time, we need policies for extreme rains as well. It should not be like once the monsoon is here, we are trying to scramble for our farms, for our roads, for our houses, and so on, and for our infrastructure. In fact, even for the El Nino, the warning was here much early. If you see, compared to the earlier years, earlier periods, people know, the policymakers, the government, the people, and even farmers uh, know that, okay, an El Nino is coming. And in fact, in Maharashtra, they have skipped the sowing. Usually they sow their farms 10 days before the monsoon rains arrive. But now the progress has been weak. And as a result, the farmers in Marathwada and Vidarbha, this is what I heard today. They have skipped their sowing, the usual sowing, and they are waiting for the rains to arrive. So, which points to us that we should not wait for the monsoon season to start to prepare for such kind of anomalies, such kind of conditions. We have to be prepared in terms of water security, and at the same time, flood conditions. Our farms, our
Right.
homes, our roads should be, prepared in such a way that they are ready for the monsoons of tomorrow.
Right. Dr. Roxy, I just hope we'll have more conversations around this. I think India needs to start having more conversations around this, not just about what El
Exactly.
Nino is, but actually what now, how do we need to be action driven now? It's quite late already, but I think we
Not
just,
only conversations, but also concrete action.
I know, I
Yeah,
know. Thank you very much,
exactly.
Dr. Roxy Matthew, for joining us on such a short notice. Thank you so much.